Well, I want to talk a little bit about that with Sir Gerald Howarth, but I mainly want to talk about Chagos, because this morning, shortly after Donald Trump's explosive tweet on Chagos, the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, Darren Jones, tried to defend his boss.
I don't think Britain should be embarrassed or humiliated at all, quite frankly. Diego Garcia, which is a small island that was part of the British Empire, was having its sovereignty challenged by the Mauritian government. We've secured that island as a military base for the next 100 years because it is an important military base for the UK and for our NATO allies, including the United States. That was why the deal was welcomed by President Trump and the American administration, because the deal not only secured the island for the next century, but gave us very, very important security guarantees about the functioning of the island and the seas near it.
Well, the Shadow Business Secretary, Andrew Griffith, was also speaking this morning. He agreed with Donald Trump.
Well, I don't agree with President Trump on everything, but on that, I absolutely do. It's a terrible deal. Conservatives have opposed this from the very beginning. The idea that we give sovereign UK territory to Mauritius, a country thousands of miles away that has never had responsibility for the Chagos Islands, and that hard-pressed British taxpayers would have to pay. It is a terrible deal. The government should think again, and Conservatives have been saying that since the very start.
Sir Gerald Howarth is a former Conservative Defence Minister. Good afternoon to you.
Hi, Peter. Good afternoon.
An act of great stupidity, Gerald. What do you think?
Yes, completely so. But unfortunately, it chimes with so much of our foreign policy making, where we are nervous about taking robust decisions. And whilst Mauritius tried to challenge us in, I think, at the United Nations, the decision was not binding. We did not need to give away the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. Mauritius never owned them in any case. It's the Chagosians who should have had the islands, not Mauritius, if anybody was going to. But what on earth are we doing in this extraordinarily turbulent world we now find ourselves in, giving up an asset in a critically important part of the world? This is absolute, utter madness. Of course, it's entirely true that in May last year, the State Department of the United States made a statement, and I'll tell your listeners, Peter, what it said. It said, "We commend both the United Kingdom and Mauritius for their leadership, vision, and commitment to ensure that Diego Garcia remains fully operational during the term of this agreement." The United States and President Trump welcomed this, although they acknowledged that it was a critical asset for regional and global security. I mean, for goodness sake, I do have some sympathy with the government. They are dealing with a complete maverick in the White House. He's utterly, totally unpredictable. He is naive, he is ignorant, he is venal, he is unbelievably vain, and his message to the Norwegian Prime Minister saying that as a result of his not getting the Nobel Peace Prize, kind of all bets were off as far as peace was concerned. Utterly puerile. I mean, he's an embarrassment.
But you agree with him on this, Gerald? You agree with him on this?
Well, I agree with what he said now, not what he said last year.
Yeah. I wonder as well within that, I mean, does it not ring a bit hollow when we're hearing Keir Starmer talking about the fact that he believes the Greenlanders should have the right of self-determination when the Chagosians didn't? Okay, they haven't actually been on the islands for 60 years, but they were forcibly removed from there. And if they're in Mauritius and even suggested that the Chagos Islands were actually UK sovereign territory, that could land them in prison.
No, of course, he is completely unpredictable. He is inconsistent. And the idea that the people of Greenland should be taken over by a property developer who's become president of the United States. I mean, it's just unbelievable that we have got ourselves into this situation. And of course,
do you agree with me that it doesn't sit well? It's contradictory. You might argue hypocritical to say that one set of people deserve their right of self-determination, but others don't.
Absolutely right. But this man just is completely all over the shop. That wouldn't matter if he was just president of the United States. Unfortunately, he's also the leader of the free world, and he is the leading player in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, which has kept the security and freedom of the people of Europe for the last 80 years since the end of the Second World War. And we are living in a nightmare scenario.
Tell me what you think, speaking of the security of the West, when it comes to a Chinese super embassy being built in London. Is that something that you think we should be worried about? Because the government says, and indeed MI5 say, that actually their concerns about this have been dealt with by the Chinese.
Well, it's not for me to gainsay what MI5 and MI6 might be saying. And they are obviously saying things publicly which may not reflect what their private view is. It's a clandestine organization by definition. But I certainly think that on the face of it, I think it is madness to allow the Chinese to build their embassy on this site, and particularly all these underground rooms. Why do they need all these underground rooms? I heard my former colleague and friend Tom Tugendhat on the radio earlier on today reminding people that the Chinese consul in Manchester was responsible for trying to detain somebody in the United Kingdom. I mean, they are at war in many respects with us, certainly at war economically with us. They spy on us, they steal our ideas, and they are determined to clamp down on dissidents who end up in the United Kingdom. We should not be giving them. They should have a much more modest embassy in the United Kingdom. And it just looks weak, Peter, that all of this is casting Britain in the eyes of our friends and our enemies as being weak, and they must be just getting out the champagne in Moscow and Beijing and Tehran at the moment. It is deeply, deeply, deeply depressing. And just let's put this in context. When Argentina invaded sovereign British territory in the Falkland Islands in 1982, Prime Minister of the day, Margaret Thatcher, took immediate action and launched the task force. And we recovered the islands, but not without having had to challenge the United States and try to get President Ronald Reagan, who was a great friend of Margaret Thatcher's, get him on the side when many voices in the United States were saying that South America is part of our backyard, we have to look after it. So, you know, and the message that sent around the world that when we recovered the Falkland Islands,
we will not be messed with.
We will not be messed with, and the world was a safer place. At the moment, when you have the President of the United States suggesting that Putin and Lukashenko, Belarus, two rogues if ever there were, if not complete criminals. Certainly one wanted the International Court of Justice in The Hague, that is Putin, and inviting them to join some sort of peace committee. I mean, the world is going upside down.
It certainly feels that way. It certainly feels that way. Sir Gerald Harth, thank you, former Conservative Defence Minister. Lots of common sense spoken there.